Langston Hughes was born on February 1, 1902, in Joplin, Missouri. Because of his parents' divorce, Hughes moved to Lawrence, Kansas, and lived there with his grandparents. Hughes has written 2 novels, 3 short story collections, more than 20 plays, 4 musicals, 12 radio and TV scripts, children's books, a number of poems, and magazine articles also. Langston Hughes tells us that jazz is his main influence. He says, "To me, jazz is one of the inherent expressions of Negro life in America, the external tom-tom beating on the Negro soul. The tom-tom of revolt against weariness in a white world, a world of subway trains and work, work, work. The tom-tom of joy and laughter and pain swallowed in a smile." Another influence of Langston Hughes is poet Walt Whitman. In the book, Walt Whitman, Where the Future Becomes Present, edited by David Haven Blake and Michael Robertson, there is a quote of Langston Hughes's saying, "Whitman's eye is not the eye of introspective versifiers who write always and only about themselves. Rather, it is the cosmic eye of all peoples who seek freedom, decency, and dignity, friendships and equality between individuals and races all over the world." Meaning, Walt Whitman doesn't write from a biased point of view, but rather a very neutral perspective. For example, in Whitman's I Hear America Singing, Whitman describes the many people of America singing. This poem inspired Langston Hughes's I Too Sing America. According to the American Heritage New Dictionary of Cultural Literacy, the Harlem Renaissance, also known as the Black Renaissance, was an African-American cultural movement of the 1920s and 1930s centered in Harlem that celebrated Black traditions, the Black voice, and the Black way of life. Langston Hughes was a significant writer associated with the movement. Langston Hughes was a significant part of the Harlem Renaissance because he was not ashamed of his race. In his essay, called The Negro Artist and the Racial Mountain, he said, "One of the most promising of the young Negro poets said to me once, 'I want to be a poet, not a Negro poet,' meaning I believe. I want to write like a white poet, meaning subconsciously, I would like to be a white poet, meaning behind that, I would like to be white." And I was sorry for the young man that said that, for no great poet has ever been afraid of being himself. Shortly after, he wrote, "We younger Negro artists who create now intend to express our individual dark-skinned selves without fear or shame. If white people are pleased, we are glad. If they are not, it doesn't matter. We know we are beautiful and ugly too. If colored people are pleased, we are glad. If they're not, their displeasure does not matter either. We build our temples for tomorrow, strong as we know how, and we stand up on top of the mountain, free within ourselves."
The Negro speaks of rivers. I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. This is The Negro Speaks of Rivers, one of my earliest poems written in 1920, just after I came out of high school. The way this poem came to be written was that I was going to Mexico to visit my father, who lived in Mexico City, and on the train going across the Mississippi River just outside St. Louis, I looked out the window and I saw this great muddy river flowing down toward the heart of the South, and I began to think about what this river meant to the Negro people, how, in a sense, our history was linked to this river, how in slavery time my grandmother told me that to be sold down the Mississippi was one of the worst things that could happen to a Negro slave. And then I remembered that I'd read about Abraham Lincoln going down the Mississippi as a young man, and he went on a raft to New Orleans, and he saw human beings bought and sold in the slave market there, and he was so horrified by this that he never forgot it. And many years later, of course, we know that it was Lincoln who signed the Emancipation Proclamation. And so, as the train went on into the gathering dusk, because it had been about sunset when we crossed the river, I took my father's letter out of my pocket and began to write down on the back of his letter this poem, The Negro Speaks of Rivers.
Throughout Langston Hughes's A Negro Speaks of Rivers, we notice the speaker bathing, building, looking, and hearing all over the world. He or she starts in the Euphrates, travels to the Nile, and ends up near the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln travels to New Orleans. Why is that significant? We notice the speaker has lived throughout hundreds of years, but how can that be? As said by Adrian Achtenberg, the I of the poem is not that of a Negro, but the Negro, suggesting the whole of the people and their history, meaning the poem isn't only one person, but rather all of the African American race as a whole. The poem A Negro Speaks of Rivers can be seen as a timeline of the African American race as well. In line 5, we notice the speaker bathing when dawns were young. This can be seen as the beginning of the African American timeline. In line 10, the speaker describes the Mississippi turning golden in the sunset when Abe Lincoln went to New Orleans around the time of the Civil War. This concluded the African American timeline.